Oh, we are. Hello and welcome to Super Rugby Aotearoa round two review here on New Zealand Sports Radio. Yes, we have had another cracking round of rugby with fans and lots and lots and lots of fans. Not quite so many in Wellington, but I guess the weather turned people off. But still, it's one of the bigger crowds that Wellington's seen, the Hurricanes have seen in a long time. Just not an All Blacks size crowd, but Ashwin, the crowds have stood up even in some pretty dodgy weather.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, you'd look at the Chiefs one down in Hamilton, and that was sold out, wasn't it? Or it looked very sold out. So the crowd there was the biggest that they've had for a long time. And as you said, I mean, I know you felt like you made a faux pas by saying Wellington, but no, you're probably right in that sense too, because it's the biggest crowd that the Canes or Wellington, outside of All Blacks, have seen for some time too. So the crowds are definitely up. I think people are going to, but the media has to sort of just take the foot off the rah-rah side of it a little bit, because Wellington was supposed to be sold out, and when you watch it on TV, it was anything but sold out.
No, it wasn't. And let's be honest, there were gaps in the Eden Park crowd, even though it was sold out. There's definitely some tickets that perhaps amongst the sort of sponsors
what's that. And I'm pretty sure this is it, and this will be the same for the Chiefs crowd last night as well, is that you saw bunches of seats, and there were bunches of seats that were empty. And what I suspect is because what they're going for to market is with GA. Now, if you think about it, you can't sell a whole stadium with GA seats because it would be chaos when the people came in. Because you get a group of 5 coming in, a group of 10 coming in, and they come in with half an hour to go, which is fair enough, half an hour to go. But you can't get 10 seats together. You can't get 5 seats together. So if you're selling it as a GA, I don't think that you can, like if it's like Eden Park, we'll take Eden Park. Let's say it's a 45,000 seat without the extra seats coming out. You can't sell 45,000 seats with a GA configuration. You have to sell 43, so you know that people can still go and find seats together.
No, but I mean, North and South stands weren't GA. It was just East and West, surely.
No. There was no. Hell, no. So you take the South stand, for example. I don't know the configuration in the North stand, but the South stand, there's the middle layer. Now that's numbered seats, but the top tier and the bottom tier, there are GA portions in there as well.
Oh, okay, understand.
There was over 20,000 GA seat tickets sold, to it.
Okay, cool. That could be it. I got a free ticket, so thank you to our mate Pierre. For that, for the free ticket. Good evening, Simon. Good to see you on the show, and good to catch up with you today in Rotorua, where we both sat down and watched the Hurricanes versus Crusaders. So yeah, nice to catch up with you today. There were a few empty seats there in FMG, but you say maybe it's down to configuration. I got I also think that the rain put off a few people, because I had 5 seats to myself as a one ticket holder.
So those ones I can even. Those ones would have been
totally packed. So it's just a matter of I'm not saying that was indicative of the whole stand. I just got lucky that I smell, and so people ran away.
You got to have a shower every now and then, Paul.
Oh, not with the burn on my leg, Oh, dear, that's not going in the shower.
True.
Don't worry, folks. I am back showering. Don't worry, it's okay.
Just jokes.
Just joking. I've got over the flannel bath, so I was having to do for a week. My notes, I'll admit, for that Chiefs Blues game are rather limited, because every time I got my notebook out, it got drenched and fell to pieces. So no written notes for the first game, I'm afraid. So I'm just going to go off the stats and my memory, which, as I say, was rather waterlogged. I mean, for showers, that was an awfully wet game.
Well, that was interesting you say that, because it's like, it was supposed to be sort of finish, possibly showers, and it's just like, that was pouring all game, wasn't it? I mean, like watching, you don't see it on TV.
So yes, I had my dry as a bone that I'd re-waxed, and you could see puddles sat on my coat, because where it was nice and waterproof. So thankfully, I stayed dry on the whole. But yeah, it was a very wet game. Also, folks, one of the things that we're doing this year during Aotearoa Super Rugby is that when we get to games, we are going live on Facebook. So last week you would have seen Arswin pre-game, half-time, full-time, giving you updates and atmosphere from the ground from Eden Park. This week it was my turn at FMG Stadium to do the exact same thing. So folks, keep your eyes out, keep peeled, get to that Facebook page, New Zealand Sports Radio, give it a like, follow it, because we will be, when we get to games, we'll be bringing you live footage from inside the ground that as much as we can. So this game, first half, I thought the Chiefs got themselves off and got the tactics right, kicking into that right wing, getting competing kicks, giving Terry Black a bit of a hard time there, really putting him under pressure. But that only seemed to last about the first quarter, and what seemed to work for them then, they went away from for the rest of the game. So I'm not quite sure what was going on.
Look, I think both teams were trying to play the kicking game, and the Chiefs' kicking game was, as you've alluded to, was a lot more accurate to get into the Blues territory. Obviously, they were also piggybacking off quite a large penalty count, which bit the Blues in the end, at the end of the first half, which we'll obviously come to a bit later. But I sort of thought, watching the game as a Blues fan with my Blues hat on, although the Chiefs had a lot of territory and a lot of position, it felt like the Blues were handling them.
Absolutely, and I think one of the big takeaways from this game for the Blues is going to be this stat: tries the Chiefs 0, tries the Blues 2. That 0 number, sure, the Chiefs racked up some points, but they didn't get across the whitewash, even though they had more possession and more territory all game. They couldn't break down that. They couldn't break down that Blues defense, which was impressive. Now, one of the things we came into this game saying was, look, a back row of Hoskins Tutu, Kiriawani, and Dalton Papali'i against a back row of Luke Jacobson, Lachlan Bashir, and I've gone blank as to the number 8 that plays for
Gus Salkula.
And so Akula, that Blues back row should be outworked at the breakdown, because they got 2 big ball carriers compared to 1 carrier, and only 1 fetcher in there compared to 2 fetchers. But that wasn't what happened. What we ended up with was 16 turnovers conceded by the Chiefs, only 9 by the Blues. So really, the Blues did very well at that breakdown. A, snaffling them, but B, also getting their cleaners in there and looking after their ball.
They did, and I actually think, whilst I thought that the penalties that the Blues were conceded were actually correct, I thought that they actually were a bit harshly done by in the fact that that consistency didn't flow to the Chiefs. So, the stats that you're referring to could have been even better in the Blues' favour if there was actually a level of sort of like also monitoring the Chiefs and them at the breakdown. There's 2 good examples in the first half, one with Lachlan Bashir himself and one with Quinton Tupaya, sorry. And the first one was Lachlan Bashir got over the ball fair and square, not a problem, and the Blues didn't let go of it and therefore got penalised. The problem was there was a Chiefs player that hadn't rolled away and that allowed Lachlan Bashir to get on the ball. And the other one was when Quinton Tupaya won a penalty. Tupaya, won the penalty for the Chiefs, but his hands were on the ruck as he actually manoeuvred his body around the ruck, which is a no-no, right? And it's like, so that's the thing. So I agree with the penalties that were given out in the fact that they were, but there was elements that they still need to look at as a referees. And to be fair, I sort of think both referees in this week's game, it was their first game. And so they'll be like the players as well, obviously coming up to speed with trying to monitor the breakdown in the more stringent fashion that they're wanting to.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the things that we thought was going to be a problem for the Chiefs was going to be the line-outs. In the end, they only lost 2 line-outs and stole 1 of the Blues. The Blues lost that, so that wasn't as bad as we were expecting. But
I was going to say, sorry. Yeah, look, they may have only lost 2 lineouts, but the reality is that they were not comfortable at the lineout. And the classic ones these days, obviously, the penalty kick to the corner for the rolling ball 5 meters out. and the number of times where you could see the confidence isn't in the line out, and they overthrew a couple of times. The Blues challenged and just sort of messed it up for them a couple of times. So, yep, they might have only lost 2 lineouts in it, but that doesn't mean that the lineout worked for the evening. And I think that's one of the things that lineout stats and the TV commentators going, they've won. The Chiefs have won 5 and the Blues have won 4. Doesn't necessarily tell the story at lineout time, does it?
No, yes, you're right. There's a clean win, and then there's a scrappy win, which doesn't give any platform.
Yeah,
makes it
exactly.
You're right. But then the scrum, which I thought I wasn't expecting to see this, but the Chiefs lost 2 of their own scrums. They only won 4 out of 6. That is, an impressive performance by the Blues, and really just show that the engine room of the Chiefs is going to be a problem for them for some time to come. And there's no obvious fix for that either, as well. So I think that's going to be a struggle for them for most of the rest of the season.
Yep, that's right. Look, I mean, the fact is that they're going to get targeted up front, and let's talk about their tight 5. Their tight 5 is not as strong as it needs to be. That's their problem, and they've got 2 rookie locks in there, and you got to get experience in that second row, doesn't it? And then it's time. It's a time factor. That's why I was really surprised when you look at. I mean, I'm jumping way ahead in the game, but their most successful period was when they were playing catch-up football towards the end of the game, and they did it playing Chiefs rugby. I'll refer to it as Chiefs rugby, and they were using their backline and playing keeping the ball alive. And I know it was wet weather rugby, but the reality is when the forwards wasn't really working for them with the forwards and bashing it up, playing wet weather rugby. And I know they talked about using the inside ball and getting the meters, and they were sort of getting the meters, but they weren't bending the defensive line as they needed to be. They needed to go to their strength, which is their backline. And when you look at their backline, Cruden, Leonard Brown, Quinn Tapia, Leonard Damian McKenzie, Sean Stevenson, and I can't remember whether it was Wainui started. Sean Wainui started, and you got Solomon Alamalo coming on towards the off the bench as well. That is a star-studded backline, even up against the Blues, right? And reality is that's what they should have been trying to use. And when you look at their forward pack that they did have, they had a lightweight back 3, apart from Peter Gus, but he's still good in the loose. And you've got a lightweight second row, which can get around the field quickly. So I sort of think that they realised too late in the piece that their backline was still their attacking weapon, even in those conditions.
Yeah, and it's the same thing last night. Sorry, not last night. Last week against Ireland.
Oh, last week. Yep.
But again, their success came when they spun it wide, and used the players like Tapia, as his uncle's poster says, that to bend the line and then setting free Wainui, Sean Stevenson. That's where they were most dangerous, and that's where they should have been looking to work. For the Blue, and if you look at that, I mean, 71 meters by Sean Wainui, 112 by Damon McKenzie, 50 by Tapia, whereas the highest for the Blues was Caleb Clark, only at 45. So the Blues kicked the ball more than the Chiefs. I think the Blues settled into the game and controlled the game better.
Probably particularly the second half, first 20. They really pinned them down there in their own half, and it wasn't done through off the back of penalties or off the back of backline play. It was basically just putting those kicks through and holding them down there and relying on their defense, which when you go through last week for the Blues and this week's game, it's their defense which is really sort of, I think, winning them the game.
Yep, totally agree. Yep, absolutely. The and we talk, and I'm okay. I'll go through it again. Sotutu, 15 tackles. Papali'i, 15 tackles. Kiriwani, 12 tackles. And only Sotutu missed 1. The others didn't miss any. Goodhue and Tuipulotu, 10 and 14 each. Really actually Parsons, who was big last week, only 7 this week. He had a much bigger week last week on defence. Maybe that's showing a bit of their positioning as well. And maybe looking at that. So one of the things that I questioned when I was sat there was it looked like they were getting in their kind of 1-3-3-1 kind of formation-ish, the two ones on either side of the forwards ended up being Satutu and Akira Iwani. And I'm thinking, I want my big ball carriers up the middle. I don't want them out wide. Now maybe.
Yeah, look, it's interesting you're going down there, and I don't. Obviously, the Blues have had a fantastic run. We're talking about 5 wins in a row on the road and the like. Yeah. There's still massive improvements that need to happen within that team, and one of them is the type forwards. I mean, you got Patrick Tuipulotu, which had it's awesome game. But when I look at the two props, Tuangafasi gets talked up big time, but when he takes the ball up, he doesn't bend the line at all. He doesn't. They talk about meters in the tackle. And then we talk about with Hoskins and Akira, obviously, meters in the tackle, which means that they make contact and they keep making 2 or 3 meters into it. Tuangafasi doesn't. Tuangafasi gets tackled on the advantage line and he stops. And as the prop forward, you want that guy to be going forward, and it's not happening. So that's someone that I think within the Blue setup still needs to lift and to look at what's wrong. It's obviously a little micro changes, as they use in the terms that they use these days, but there's some micro changes that need to be made that looks at the likes of, yes, Parsons had good defensive game last week, but again, still, you want that front row to be able to punch that line in the close quarters and make some meters to give you that little roll on. If you don't get that, then you have the real cases where, especially with the hardening of the laws and the interpretation of the laws and making sure that they're applied correctly, that opens you up to the defensive team coming in and being on the front foot and able to get over the ball. So I actually believe that the Blues, obviously we're going to talk about the Crusaders game, but you're going to come up with Crusaders, you need your tight 5, all of them, to make meters, not just Patrick.
Yeah, and just to back that up, so Hodgman 5 carries 3 meters, Parsons 6 carries 4 meters, Tuangafasi 4 carries 3 meters, Jack Goodhue relatively good, 3 carries 5 meters. At least he's had more meters than carries. Now, I think for Jack Goodhue, what we're talking about here is a guy who's coming through, who is a good Mitre 10 Cup player, who's learning his way at Super Rugby. And what they said is, right, your job is this and do this, and I think that's a good role for him to play. I'm not expecting him to carry. I'm expecting him to clear and tackle. And if he's doing that, I'm happy with it, because he's not that experienced player. He's not an All Black in the way that Tuangafasi is, right? Yep. James Parsons has been in the All Black setup. He might have.
And he's a very experienced first-class player.
Very, very experienced first-class. Yeah, exactly. Jack Goodhue isn't. So I'm actually, of those guys, I don't mind Jack only having 3 carries. That for me, that's absolutely fine, because I think he's doing other things and he's been told to concentrate on that, do what he does, do what he can do at the moment well, and he'll grow into those other things over the next season or two. So yes, actually, be like Delson Papali'i. Again, he didn't carry much, but again, he's there as the first man in to clear all the time. That's it. That's the role they want him in. So we should get on to the second game now. But yes, congratulations to the Blues. Fantastic win. They maybe they didn't get the try bonus point. Maybe it didn't look so dominating, but it was controlled. They controlled that second half.
Controlled the game. I suppose before we move on, we should really talk about the Chiefs and where they need to go, because they've got some issues.
They have, but until they get an engine room, until they get a couple of props back, I can't see where they're going to go. They do also need Sam Cane back for the Josh Goodhue, not Jack Goodhue. Thank you for that point, Aaron. Who's Jack Goodhue? He exists. I know he does. I'm trying to think who he is now.
There was sarcasm, wasn't it? That was sarcasm.
What, from him? Have I got the names right?
From you about Jack.
No, I've got. I don't know why.
Blank. Jack, the Crusaders centre who plays for the All Blacks.
Oh, of course it is. Yeah. Oh, dear.
So, honestly, we do know rugby. We've been doing a rugby show for many years.
Oh, I just hide my face in shame.
We all have mind blanks.
We do, yes. Yes, you're right. It is Josh Goodhue, not Jack. Why can't they give them different letters? Seriously, Harry, think of the post that came through. How are you supposed to know whose letters whose? What a stupid art. parents.
We blame Mr. and Mrs. Goodhue.
We do, absolutely. You're right. All is revealed. That's David McKenzie putting a kick through when they're trying to keep hold of the ball for a try to get a losing bonus point was a dumb move.
It was a brain fade from him.
Yeah. You got to say some question marks around the game discipline there from the or game control and awareness by the Chiefs, and as and until they get that front five sorted, and the only way they're going to get it sorted by players coming back from injury, it's a problem. I cannot use that comment. The young Blues need to work on their first half to display this discipline. Yes, twice now they've now. Something that I've heard talked about England is that you'll find England will always give away penalties in the first 10 or 15 minutes. To a certain degree, that's them learning where is the line that the referee is going to allow us to get to, and then they stop their penalties after that. I'm not convinced that the Blues are as disciplined as that, but there is an element of them learning where the line is from the referee.
I think yeah. But I think there's an element of that was, as I alluded to earlier, is the fact is that there was the rulings against the Blues were not wrong, but there was inconsistency in the application by the referee on the night.
Yep. So any other ideas apart from that front five for the Chiefs?
Look, I know you mentioned about the tight five, but you've got to remember you've got Takalahi and you've got Nepo Lalala. You got Aiden Johnston who had big raps on him as well. So and those guys, as opposed to the Blues front row, made meters when they carry the ball. It's just the fact that their second row is the lightweight issue, I think, and that's I don't know until whether they try. I remember last year or was it this year before COVID, they did play a second row full of back rowers, and it worked for them. Previously last year when they had, I've forgotten the guy that gives away the yellow and red cards that's playing for the Highlanders now. I see his face, but I can't know. Anyway, last year he's a back rower, but last year they used him in the lock role because they lost their locks last year as well. So, as Alex says, the Chiefs are actually, although we're having a go at their tight five, I actually think that the Chiefs are got more capability there than they're actually performing with, so to speak.
Yep. Aaron, I do think that Bowden's getting a bit of an easy ride at the moment. I do think he is making some errors in game management from 15. I'll agree with that one. I saw that last week as well, where he seemed to take the ball up and get turned over a couple of times when he shouldn't. When
just making the wrong call. Just making the wrong call in terms of, I've got to do something. No, you don't. Just because you're Bowden Barrett, you don't. Just take the obvious option, and just last night was a couple of times he got it down a wing, and instead of there should have been, because of the kick that the Chiefs had put in, there should have been space behind, and he should have actually put the ball into that space, and instead he tried to take it up and beat the line, and he didn't, and put the team under pressure.
Absolutely. So moving on to the second game then, we had a second away win, Hurricanes 25, Crusaders 39. Now this one was all tied, 25 all at 62 minutes. And I'll be honest, I was surprised by that. Because the first half, for me, the Crusaders looked to be cruising, and this one looked like it was just going to disappear into the distance.
The Crusaders were cruising that whole game. Basically, from the time that they scored in like the 50th second of the game, it was basically, here we go. And the Canes did well to keep in touch, but it never felt like the Crusaders were going to lose the game. If anything, the Canes are starting to look like the Blues of old, and taking poor options instead of just taking the sensible option and trying miracles, etc. The game, the situation that lost them the game was trying to throw a miracle ball in 5 meters away from your own line. Crazy stuff.
Yeah, it was crazy stuff. But I think they probably lost it before then, which was during the yellow card, right?
Yep.
The yellow card period. Really dumb tripping of Sam Cane. Which gave an easy penalty to the Crusaders, and the Crusaders then just saw out the rest of that yellow card. and it finished 3-3 during the yellow card.
Yeah, that yellow card period of Sam Whitelock, that Vaifafita tripped, and he actually tripped, and it's lucky that the ref actually thought it was just obstruction. Otherwise, tripping can be a red card offence. Would have been a yellow card for sure in that instance anyway. So the fact that the ref thought it was just obstruction, he got away with one there. And I can't remember. I remember trying to make a mental note of it at the time. After Vaifafita did that stupid move, then somebody else did something equally stupid straight after that, because that penalty was at inside the Crusaders 40 half, about the 40-meter line, and then there was another penalty that was given away at about the 10-meter line inside the Canes half, and it was equally stupid as well. And it's just like, and that's the sort of thing that I was sort of thinking is that, crazily enough, the Canes kept themselves in the game, and they could have pinched it, right? You never know, bounce of the ball, all that sort of stuff. They went and did stupid things that took the game out of their hands.
And what's actually surprises me is actually, as you say, the stupid things were those, they were trying crazy offloads at times, and yet they offloaded less than the Crusaders did. But the Crusaders, when they offloaded, knew that they got front football, therefore there wasn't going to be a guy behind them to steal it, and they knew there would be one of their guys coming through to pick it up.
Yep.
It's about when you offload. There were some times that when it came off the Hurricanes, it looked fantastic. But there were times also when it didn't, and they just gave up a try. So it cost them more than it won them.
The other thing is that I think I don't know what's happened in terms of, was Jason Holland actually the coach at the beginning of the year?
Yes.
So because I don't know, the coach, to me, the team selection's all wrong. You saw tonight with Chase Tiatia. Look, he's got some magical skills, but he's a liability. He's a massive liability.
The Hurricanes coaching situation was whoever's the head coach was Plumtree.
Yep.
Is he with the All Blacks or is he with the
right?
Yeah. So it was a very late change. During preseason.
Okay. But Plumtree's still in the. I do hear him getting mentioned within their coaching setup. That's what really confused me. So obviously Jason Holland's taken over the head role, and Plumtree's got a sort of like a assistance role in the background,
or in the All Black advisory thing, kind of thing. Maybe, I don't know, but
anyway, look, I mean, but just coming back, Cobus Wies, look, he was one of the form players before COVID-19 lockdown, all that, everything happened, right? Mm-hmm. And the dude's coming off the bench. Is he injured? I don't think so. The guy was hot. The guy was hot
to him on the right wing.
Hooson. Yeah. Yep. And I'm sorry, that's a mistake. The guy was hot. And today you saw that they needed somebody that could break the Crusaders, and I think that Wies would have been that man.
Yep. Again, another area that we thought would be a problem is lineouts, as the Hurricanes lineout fell to pieces last week. They lost 3, then the Crusaders lost 5 of their lineouts. Not sure what was going on there, but yeah, a bit of an uncharacteristic of the Crusaders to be to get one of your core pieces not working. I've got noted down here that at 35 minutes it was 2 penalties to the Hurricanes and 10 to the Crusaders. It finished up 12-14. So the Crusaders went from 10 penalties given up in the first 34 minutes to only 4 for the remaining 46 minutes, which shows you that how the Crusaders tightened things up in that second half. And one of those was clearly Goodhue's yellow card, one of those 4. So yeah, most of that second half they only gave up like one penalty every 10 minutes, which is phenomenal.
I think that also shows, though, obviously not giving away the penalties in defence, but the way that the Hurricanes kept themselves in the game a bit more too, and so kept the game away. And yeah, I don't know. I mean, it just felt like the Canes looked like when they first came out, they were starting to get a bit of a roll on and the like, but they seemed to just lose all composure and shape. And then the Crusaders started to come back on top. And I think one thing that's generally happening, the Blues aside, most teams when they've got the ball aren't giving away penalties.
Yep. And it's true. That's, I mean, the Crusaders had much less possession territory in that first half, which was part of it. A topic here that we went over last week, so I'm not sure we'll spend too long on it. TJ needs his captaincy stripped. Absolutely, TJ needs to learn to button it during games.
I 100% agree with that, but that's off the back of last week and a bit of this week. But I actually thought that he did keep his composure a bit more this week. But you can't help but think, if your blood's boiling inside the game, you can't play your game, right? You know, any sport, right? If you get angry internally, you start making poor decisions, and right. You know what I mean? And I think the problem is that he needs to go to a bit of Jack Nicholson's anger management course or something, to learn how to deal with anger, because he's got an anger management problem. If he's getting that worked up and he's having arguments with the referee, it's got to affect his game.
Yep, and it's now, if it's something, if he was playing like in a prop or a forward position, I wouldn't mind it so much, as his job is to bash people and you want someone to be angry. But he's not. He's in a decision-making role, which needs to be calm to make the right decisions. So yes, I say, props, locks, yes.
You want a bit of controlled anger in the type 5, controlled anger,
and also the loosies as well. Any of the forwards, yes.
Yeah.
So because of that, there is one area that I think the Crusaders are behind everybody else on, and clearly this is how we should be scoring Super Rugby Aotearoa this year. Not with points, not with wins and losses, but with how many drop goals you've taken. So far, the Crusaders have not actually scored a drop goal, and that has got to be to their detriment. Richard Moanga, you are slacking.
Yeah. Hey, actually, on a serious note, obviously there's been quite a bit of conversation around the drop kicks. Do you think that New Zealand Rugby have actually obviously they would have had a review after the World Cup, and is it possibly an outcome of that? We need to do away with this mentality that we don't take drop kicks, and maybe that's something that's come through through the teams. I mean, I know that they've been practicing, obviously, for golden point extra time as well.
I think it's more that.
Yeah.
Because we didn't. I don't remember seeing it this. I'll rephrase it. There have not been this many drop kicks during the first rounds of Super Rugby before lockdown from the Kiwi sides, right? So
you could probably do a sarcastic line and saying there hasn't been, Kiwi sides haven't done this many drop kicks in the entire editions of Super Rugby ever combined.
And God was having to go away and learn. It's kind of like
what's this drop kick that people speak of?
There's more drop kicks in the first 4 games than I've done in my entire career.
Hey, look, I think coming back to the game, Will Jordan. We have to talk about Will Jordan, don't we?
Yeah, you can go on.
I was just sort of thinking. Look, to me, I mean, apart from the fact that the Crusaders look comfortable, he was the difference between the sides. His aerial work, in particular, was secure. As they commented on the TV, but it was really obvious anyway, is that when he was taking the ball in the air with forward momentum. So when he was landing, he was actually breaking the line, and he actually set up Jack Goodhue's try under the sticks with taking that a ball in the air sort of thing, and then going forward, if I remember rightly. Or did I get that wrong? But anyway, he made the break.
Yeah, and I think actually we've not seen much of that in the opening games, right? Is people taking that ball with that momentum that you're talking about. Now, whether that's people have got have been getting better lengths and have been better chasers, I don't know, or whether players are just getting themselves in the wrong place. But yes, a great skill to have, and he definitely got himself involved in the game. 13 runs, more than anybody else in this game, and unsurprisingly, the most meters as well. But 5 defenders beaten, one clean break, led to the try, as you say. Having had a very good game there in that. Seen a lot of people on Twitter were going, he's a future All Black kind of comments along this sort of thing as how good is he there. I'll be honest, I was watching in a pub, so maybe slightly distracted. But yeah, I didn't stand out that big for me. But yes, with a beer. I was more seeing dumb penalties was what I was spotting along this.
Look, plenty of dumb penalties, and that's the thing is that what we're trying to with the interpretation of the law book and ruling to the law book is that the players, whether it was in Saturday night's game or today's game, they need to stop giving away dumb penalties. My Tuangafasi got penalised in the Blues Chiefs game when he was trying to roll north south instead of basically extricate himself going east west, and it's just like, and then he was going, "Oh, I was trying to get out, dude." It's been stated. Everybody should know you're a professional player. Don't roll north south. You have to roll out east west. Sorry guys, you're professional rugby players. You need to learn these basics.
Yep, absolutely. Another player that I was happy to see back, David Havili. He came on and played well. So great to see him back after his bowel operation. So yeah, very happy to see that. Quite how he managed to stroll over untouched from 5 meters out is wow.
That's that last try that they scored.
That's the last try. Yeah, I mean, look, there's hitting a good line, and then there's the seas passing for you as you cross the Red Sea.
Yeah, it was like a guy in white robes came along and used his arms to just cast everybody aside, so that David Havili could go through. Because the guys on the TV commentary, they was like, "Oh, look, he's running outside inside line." Barely, if he did. He basically waltzed to the side of Ben May. Just gave him a handshake on the way through. Said, "Thank you very much."
Oh dear! What, just stuck the $20 into his back pocket to say thank you to the guys.
Whoa! Don't go down that line, No, look, I mean, again, strong performance from David Havili coming back, as he said, first game back after quite a serious operation, and to come back and put on a performance like that was out of the box.
Yep. Yeah, Alex says the Crusaders' whole back line had good games. Yep. Maybe apart from Goodhue getting yellow carded. They gave up 3 penalties as well. So yeah, Jack needs to admit. Look, it was a repeat one. It wasn't a particularly egregious yellow card.
Well, it was a team yellow card as well at that. I mean, like, although he may have given away 3,
he also gave it 3 himself.
No, but what I'm saying is that the actual yellow card that he got in the end was for basically the number of team offences, particularly in the red zone.
Yeah,
people on podcast, I did air quotes.
And in that first 30 minutes, while it was still a game, you could see the Crusaders were being the Crusaders, going, you can have as many shots at 3 as you like, but you're not having a 5 or a 7 because we're just going to they didn't give up silly penalties on the whole. They gave up tactical penalties.
Yeah. That's it, and the thing is that I think I was sort of, as you do, you talk to the TV and say, "Dude, no, you can't keep going for 3s. You're not going to beat the Crusaders scoring 3s. You have to score tries against the Crusaders,
unless you're the Sharks, in which case you can draw with 3s."
Yeah, well, it still didn't win.
Didn't win. True.
You're not going to beat the Crusaders with 3s.
Oh, dearie me. So yes, got to say then, look. 2 teams looking really good so far, which are the Crusaders and the Blues. The Chiefs, who we thought were going to be sort of a challenger for this competition, looking well short and nothing like. The Hurricanes, who I thought had been overperforming before lockdown, perhaps performing to their potential now, and probably a couple of key players. Again, Ardy Surveyor, not fully fit, not back up to match speed yet, but he did play the full 80, which was good. So
you have to wonder whether they should be playing Ardy. Reality is okay. So just talk about the Cranes back row. I don't believe Ardy should be playing. He doesn't look like he is match fit or ready to be on that field. That's not Ardy Savia playing out there. That Ardy Savia that we do know, and Duplessis Karifi. The new rules. Everybody raved about Duplessis Karifi before COVID, and because he got so many turnovers. The problem with those turnovers was that he was going in illegally into those rucks and mauls. He knows that he can't now, and that's why you can see he's basically in 2 weeks in a row his game has been nullified, and he really hasn't been a presence on the park at all.
But even pre-lockdown, pre-COVID, he was always a guy who he's going to get turnovers, but he's also going to give up penalties. He's playing absolutely slightly beyond that edge. And he hadn't quite got it reined back to be just on the edge. He was always just slightly over at Super Rugby level. At Mitre 10 Cup level, he plays right on the edge really well. But at Super, where everything's just a bit quicker, everyone's just a bit better, he hadn't quite got that line quite right, I don't think.
Just digressing onto another point, sorry, things keep popping into my head. I think this game also shows the difference. Like, if you want to beat the Crusaders, one thing the Crusaders do, and everybody knows this, and yet I don't understand why other teams don't adopt this, is the fact is that if you're on the ground, you're out of the game, right? So you don't want to be out of the game. You want to be in the game. So get on your feet, get in a position that you can do something. And you looked at the Wellington, the Canes, sorry, not Wellington, the Canes. There was a break that was made, and in the replay when they showed the break, you see all these forwards in the background, in the distance, and the move was down the right wing, and it was a good move, but they ran out of players to pass to, and in the replay shot, you see all their forwards hanging back, just jogging or trotting along, and it's just like, no, if that's the Crusaders, they want to put themselves in a position where they can help, and their first try is a fantastic example of that. Because they made the break, it was inside passes and outside passes, and it was backs and forwards. So if you want to look at the end of the Crusaders have got 2 arms, 2 legs, just like every other team does. And although they've got fantastic systems, and obviously that they work for each other, and I think that's the key thing and the difference in the way that they play versus other teams play. And you're starting to see the Blues starting to do it. Is the fact is that you've got to play for the guy next to you. You've got to get up. There's no point lying around on the ground saying, oh, yeah, my mate will get it. I'll just get to the next one. No. You want to be at every breakdown.
This Hurricanes pack, right, is not a heavyweight, we're going to beat you up pack. We're looking
Never has been.
Karifi, Princep, Fafita is one of your locks. You've got Dane Coles in there as well. You've got 5 highly mobile, fast forwards, not power forwards. Look, Irish Surveyor's powerful as well. Don't get me wrong about that, but they're
not traditional power forwards. They're wide-ranging ones.
Yeah. So all those 5 should be, you should have at least 1 or 2 there whenever you make a break, because they've got those. They've got those. All his reveal goes. Yeah, the Crusaders just had this illusion of being faster compared to the other franchises. Look, if you get up first quicker, then you're gonna look faster running because you've taken 2 steps before the next person has.
Absolutely, that's it. Yeah. And I'll come back to the coaches. We just talked about the forwards, and we talked about Via, Fafita, and Lock. You got Scott Scrafton on the bench. The dude's a workhorse. I was really disappointed when he left the Blues because unfortunately he got injured, and so he had a bit of time out and the like. But the fact is that I actually have a bit of time for Scott Scrafton. I think he's a great workhorse. He gets in there and he does the hard yards. You got the dude sitting on the bench. That's crazy. And when you need grunt, and he'll give you grunt.
Yep.
He's not a star. He's not a star. Don't get me wrong. He's not a star, but he's a good, honest workhorse.
And this comes back to selection issues, isn't it? Well, look, you need weight in those row. Fafita, I love Fafita as a 6. I just don't rate him as a 5. Again, that's I think Fafita as a 6 is look, when he's got his work rate up, he's an All Black, absolutely. To me, so I'd much rather.
You can play a Fafita for the last 20 years a lock. With your subs coming on and that sort of thing. You do that, but not starting is just crazy when you've got a fit lock. I mean, if you like the Chiefs and all your locks are in the infirmary, then you're basically, then you're starting to look at, okay, we have to chuck Fafita in there, but not when you've got one on the bench.
Well, they did that. I mean, they had Adam Thompson on the bench, right? And they didn't start him quite rightly. Yeah, exactly. Cool. Any final points, or
Look,
an hour already?
I think that's I think that's about it. I want to talk about the television coverage a little bit before we head off.
Sure.
I'm disappointed with our television coverage. It's people are like we know the rules that they're trying to enforce, their existing rules. It didn't help when reporters all over, whether it's print or video, on TV, were talking about the new rules. They're not new rules; they're existing rules. They're actually just applying them. And so you've got a lot of people out there, the majority of people are confused about, these new rules. Well, they're not new rules, but we're not getting replays of when the penalty's happening. And it's just like, as a fan, you want to see a replay to see what happened and why the penalty was given away. And it's just like, we're not getting the replays. And it is the most frustrating thing to watch. So if me, as somebody that understands the game better, hopefully, although I make faux pas on this show, wants to see a replay to see what happened. Just imagine someone who thinks that they are new rules or doesn't quite understand what's going on. They need to see the replays and those commentators to explain what happened in that scenario and why the penalty was given away. Yeah, I mean, you watch it. I mean, I've just been, 6 months now, but seen sports coverage in America where they do that. They do an explanation of what went on. And I know we go on, there's not enough time in rugby. I think there is enough time in the rugby to actually just do a quick replay. And if you don't, you can do the picture inset that can, keep the live game showing while you're going through the replay. So, yeah, I'd love to see the Sky needs to lift their game in terms of the broadcast.
They do. And also they need to... the media, right? We came up to the first game. We suddenly had a media that was being positive about rugby, and even sort of up through the halfway last week, I can already see them reverting to type this week, going number of penalties or this, that, and the other. Guys, stop moaning about things. You've only just got rugby back. Find something positive to say, or shut up, because on the whole, it's positive. There's positive stuff to talk about at the moment. It's not in a dire state where we have to criticize.
Do what I just said. Just do what I said. Make if you have to do the negativity thing, do a video of, say, an explanation of what happened and why that ruling was. And if you feel that it was there's a poor decision, explain why it was a poor decision. So it's based on, rather than just ranting about the number of penalties or whatever. Or this is like, hey, look. Well, make it a thing. It's just like, look, these players are making the same mistakes again and then again and again, and the referee has no option but to blow it up. And there's ways to do it, but geez, I don't know. I'm sorry, as I said, I'm still just stuck on the fact that Sky's coverage is disappointing for me at the moment.
Yep. Aaron, quite right. You love it because what I say is the truth and what is the best, and I'm always right. So loving the point there, Aaron.
It's the British Raj.
So thank you very much, Arthur, for joining me this evening. On there, yes, Alex, you're right. The media just want to write clickbait. So you know what you need to do, folks? You need to support people who are not writing clickbait, and that is right here, which is at New Zealand Sports Radio. So please share the show with your friends. Let people know about us and that we exist. Get it out there. Also, would be fantastic if you could download the podcast. It's out there on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Acast, all your favorite podcatching places. In all honesty, it's downloads of the podcast that are going to make this station viable. So get that out there. Get listening to podcasts. They're a wonderful thing. And tell all your mates about it, please. It has been another edition brought to you by New Zealand Sports Radio, talking about Super Rugby Aotearoa round 3. We've got round 3 to come.
Ding ding.
I nearly had it so good.